Hannah.
And I'm Matt Hanna.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannas,
where we talk about all of your favorite scary movies.
And today we are talking about the new release, The Woman in the Yard.
Yes, we are.
This is a 2025 movie that came out in March, so we are going to stay spoiler-free until we enter the spoiler zone, which we will announce as per usual. This film was directed by... I don't know how to pronounce this man's first name. Jaume Collet-Serra. He's like a Hispanic director.
I was going to assume Wame. Because J wouldn't make a J sound. You took Spanish in high school. Jaume.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry.
Wame.
I'm just stupid. It's written by Sam Stefanik, and this is the first feature-length film that he ever wrote. And it's starring Danielle Deadwyler. This is a Blumhouse produced film as well. And spoiler, Blumhouse can't buy a hit at this point. They are on a really tough run.
Yeah, the fall-off should be studied, to be honest. It is brutal out there for Blumhouse. And
it's impressive.
I can't help but say they have no one to blame but themselves. But... you know, like, they're not good at picking them right now. And I don't think they're picking because overly interesting things.
Obviously, Jason Blum, got to this point because he could pick them.
And he understood the industry really well. And
he still clearly understands the industry well in terms of what'll make money or enough money to be worth putting money into. I was listening to him on a podcast and he was talking about, sequels are what makes money right now. So, I know that they're doing, Megan 2 and all that shit. And, original IP doesn't do as well. So they're not going to flush as much money into it.
Original IP doesn't do as well. Sinners is right there.
I know.
That has proven that people want... The people are starved for original content. Yeah. I even hate calling it content. That's such a fucking... ridiculous way to talk about art. People want original art is what I should say.
But when I listened to that interview, he said of 2024, the only original idea that made money was Long Legs.
The Challengers make money? Oh, are we talking about just horror? Oh, okay. I thought in general people try to say that original ideas don't make money.
Yeah, I know.
It's some bullshit.
Well, this movie is about a mysterious woman who repeatedly appears in a family's front yard, often delivering chilling warnings and unsettling messages, leaving them to question her identity, motives, and the potential danger she might pose. And
if you didn't already say it, as usual, we're spoiler-free until we're not. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I said.
Well,
but, yeah.
Double warning.
That plot description also gives fucking nothing away.
Not much happens in the movie either, though, so...
Exactly. The plot description is really short. I, had to add to it because it didn't make sense. So, just a couple quick background facts that I thought were interesting that I wanted to share. This screenplay was first written in 2020, called The Man in the Yard, and it was in that year's edition of the annual Blacklist.
Oh, classic. We've had a couple of those recently.
Yeah, but those were good.
Yeah, this one was not good. We're already telling people we don't like it?
Yeah.
Well, some people do like it. We did not like it.
It is very interesting. It's either you fucking hated it or you really resonated with it. I am on the side of dislike. And we'll talk about why. Yeah. Obviously, that's why we're here. But
I'm going to be called pedantic in this episode. That's for sure.
That's fine. So... for the people who didn't know, though, The Blacklist is that year's most liked, not produced screenplays. And from when the first draft was written and the final product we got did go through some pretty significant changes. So we do wonder if those significant changes made the screenplay worse. Since apparently it was very well liked at first. In an interview with Sam Stefanik, that is the writer of the film, said, "For years I had this image in my head of a stranger sitting in a chair outside a window, staring at a house in the middle of nowhere. I didn't really know what to do with it. I didn't know what it meant, who that person was. So that image just kind of sat there. Whatever this image was, I knew it was going to be something sinister." And then he said that in 2020, when he himself was feeling depressed, and like had more time to be writing a feature-length film, he really started exploring the idea further. And he says, I got to a certain point where I knew I needed to have a motivation for my villain. That's when it hit me that I was seeing this image because my brain was taking my suicidal depression and giving it to a character to embody as a way to deal with my depression.
Okay, well, I think that's like all there. I just don't think it's done
successfully.
Yeah.
Well, and so I do really wonder if in the original draft that was handled with more care. But, like, also maybe it was messier. Like, who's to say what that looked like? Because that's not what we got. He did say, obviously, at first, it was the man in the yard. And he thinks that it was a man because he is a man writing about his depression. So, like, to him made sense as a man. And obviously, then they decided on this, you know, female character. And they were like, bro, you have to make it a woman in the yard. And he said, that was challenging at first, to say goodbye to the villain that represented my own depression. I almost felt like I had gotten power over him by writing his demise, and by removing him, I felt like I was giving him that power back.
Yeah, this is all feeling kind of icky to me.
I don't feel like that's icky. It just sounds like
I
hope he's like in therapy and taking medication and like working on himself.
But he
like,
even said he felt like he beat that monster. But like looking at the movie, I don't know exactly if I feel that that's conveyed well.
The ending is ambiguous, which is the problem, and we will talk about that. One other quick fun fact I did want to share is the main character, Danielle Deadwyler, Ramona, is an artist, or at least at some point had been an artist. There are like some of her paintings or artwork in the home. And they actually used the actress, Danielle Deadwyler's own artwork in the film. Because apparently she's very multifaceted and a very, very talented woman. So that is really cool that they were able to incorporate that. Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty. Again, we're staying spoiler free at first, so we're going to dance around a couple things so we don't ruin it for you too much. What were our expectations going in, though?
You watched it before me.
Did you think it would be good?
No, I had very little interest in it beforehand. I didn't find any of the trailers compelling, and I will stand by that. I think then you watched it before me and you said it was bad.
So then
I watched it and found it to be a very frustrating and unrewarding watch, would be the way that I would put it.
I would agree with that.
Frustrating being the pinnacle of my feelings. Like there was parts where I started yelling at the TV in frustration, and Hanna saw it. Mm-hmm. So, and I think I was justified.
Yeah, we'll talk about it if you're justified or not, in my opinion. So when I first saw trailers for this, we had seen a lot in theaters because of this podcast. So we've definitely seen trailers come up for this. It wasn't interesting to me. It just did absolutely nothing for me. And then when it came out, a lot of people shit on it. So then I was like, well, I really don't need to pay to see that. But then a creator that I do really like, or at least a content creator on TikTok who reviews film, who I think has interesting takes, whether I agree with them or not all the time, I respect them. So when he really liked it, I was like, okay, I will give this a shot. We'd also posted a poll to our Instagram about which March new releases our listeners wanted us to cover. And this was the winner of that. So here we are. But having expectations that it wouldn't be good, I feel like those expectations were lived up to. But let's talk spoiler-free why we did not like the film.
Do you want to go first?
I will say that everything in this movie is extremely heavy-handed. I think this movie is wearing what it's trying to say for the most part on the surface, but it's so on the nose and heavy-handed that I don't find it compelling or interesting. Like, it almost feels tacky to me, like corny. Like the opening scene, like they're supposed to show that mom has been like struggling, maybe emotionally or financially or both, and like the kid wakes up and goes to feed the dog and there's not kibble and he puts mashed potatoes in the dog's bowl. And to me, like, I just felt like those details, for me, felt corny and uncomfortable. And I don't know if that's because I grew up, like, pretty low income and, like, there was no fucking way in hell my mom, at her, like, most depressed or poor, would let me feed the dog mashed potatoes. Like, I don't know if I'm, like, personalizing it and being like, they're just trying so hard to show that they're poor and depressed. but I'm relating it to a personal experience, yeah. So, I mean.
I don't have, like, a problem with that. My problem is that this movie is trying to be the Babadook without understanding any of the reasons it made it successful. It, to me, really, and this is going to be rude to the writer, I'm sorry, really feels like it's a cash grab to cash in on the elevated mental health horror genre after seeing movies like Hereditary and seeing movies like The Babadook do really well, which to me feels really gross. Because it's when it's done in a really lazy way, that's how I'm going to interpret it, is like, okay, yay, grief monster, depression monster, it's going to get you. And, like, that's what this movie is about. And, like, it just, to me, comes across as, like, corporate cash grab and kind of gross is the best way I can put it. Similar, I think that movie Lights Out that came out years ago, they, based on a short story film that's horrifying, and then they go in and try to add a really weird, like, depression element to it. And it also came across really gross.
Yeah, so, and we actually never saw that, so we're just going based off.
I've seen the short story or the short YouTube video.
That's okay, but we still never saw the movie, so I'm just throwing that out there. But I did read the plot description, and it did disgust me. Like, what it seemed like it was saying, I found really gross. This one, I don't know if I find it as gross.
I find it lazy.
But it depends on how you interpret the ending, if it's gross or not.
And we'll get to that.
And that is part of the problem. When you are making this statement about mental health and suicidal ideations, you can't leave the ending ambiguous and expect to be having some, like, moving ending. Like, that's just not what it is. It's either, like, if you leave it ambiguous, it just feels like you're telling me maybe you should succumb to your depression. I think in this kind of film, and it's the same with Smile, you need to let the main character fully overcome that, or it doesn't work. Then the theming becomes really sinister, in my opinion. And so leaving it ambiguous, which this movie does, is a no. I would say, from this writer's perspective, I don't think, to your point, that he is in this for, like, a corporate cash grab. This is the first feature film that he wrote, and he was a comedy writer on other projects, not for film, for a long time. So I don't think that he was coming into this like, yeah, I'm trying to make money. I think he was really trying to get, like, his thoughts and his vision on paper. That's what it sounds like to me based off reading interviews. Like, I really think he was trying to use this as, like, a therapeutic experience.
I agree. I just think the finished product doesn't look that way, and that's not his
finished
fault.
Product feels exploitative, and that's obviously the director, Blumhouse, yada yada.
It's the exact same way I feel about Death of a Unicorn, where it seems like it's a lazy way to cash in on the eat the rich social commentary horror that doesn't have the awareness or the intelligence to make the statements in the way that the one more successful movies did. And so it just thinks it can be those without doing the legwork. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm sorry to the screenwriter. I really don't think it's your fault entirely. But
it's hard to know without seeing the original script.
And just unfortunately, the final product, that's what it felt like to us. I know not everyone feels this way. I think what else hurts it is it's not scary.
It's not scary at all.
Really interesting either. It's like, that's where I'm getting frustrated. I'm like sitting there and being like, I need this movie to speak to me. It's not speaking to me. I need this movie to scare me then. It's not scaring me. I need this movie to make me interested in any of the characters, and it's not doing that. I sat there being like, what does this movie have to offer me? What does it have? I mean, that's not always the role of a movie, but what does it have to make me feel, think, any of it? And it just, I got nothing, and I was
there's nothing
so mad
that I look for in a film that I think this movie is offering me, because even if I think the plot is like nah, if it looks cool,
and this didn't. It wasn't good looking
then
either.
I can, give a pass to certain things. But yeah, I don't really think this has anything that I am personally looking for in a film. To your point about the characters and how you don't really care for any of them, I think part of that is that in the form that we have it now, her children aren't fully fleshed out characters.
And they're not very good actors either. Sorry.
They're just kids
the daughter is frustratingly bad to me.
I mean, she's little, but
I know it annoyed me.
Yeah, I don't think that those characters are written well at all. They're completely flat and one-dimensional. And so you also don't feel like sympathy or empathy for those characters really either. Like, they just feel like their function is to annoy the main character, Ramona, and maybe annoy us.
Yeah, this movie is anti-charisma.
It's anti-child. Like, I don't know.
It's anti-mom, too. It's anti-bad mom. I don't know.
Struggling with motherhood.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say all of that. It's just that I think it can come across that way. You can read it that way.
Yeah, and to your point, this movie did feel like incredibly slow and uninteresting. And again, like, we can fuck with a slow burn. Literally, by the time this episode comes out, we will have already released our episode on Sinners. And Sinners does have like a lot of this like build up. But it's so interesting, and it looks good, and it sets our characters up so well, so we care about them later, and it's acted well, and the costumes are great, and all this shit. And
it's extremely layered.
This movie doesn't have that, so we don't.
No, it has none of that. It has. Yeah, I just don't. It's hard for me to care this little. Like, I almost felt like there had to be like effort to go in to make me not care about these characters at all. And I feel bad that I don't, but I just don't. I feel
bad because I feel like our main actress is a talented actress.
She was good, but they didn't give her anything to work with.
But she doesn't have enough to work with to like really
until
shine.
Near the end of the movie. Like, she has some like, I think, physical and emotional performances that work well near the end. But like, other than that, it's just. It's hard to get through, to be honest.
And
not everyone felt this way, which is why I feel bad.
I think most people like hated it, and then there's like a 15% really liked it and felt that the themes and the purpose of the film and the way it shows depression really resonated with them, or the way it showed parenthood really resonated with them. And to me, as someone with depression who works in mental health, I did not entirely feel that way.
We got to call Will up and see what he thinks.
Yeah.
If this should be added to our bad mental health and horror episodes.
Again.
Ignore this. It's laundry done. Sorry.
Again, I think a big part of it is the ending, because if it weren't for this weird little ambiguous ending, I think it would be more clear, like maybe not a good movie, but like fine enough. But that's not what we get. So anything else that you feel like you can say about this movie without spoiling it? Anything positive you can say? No, I really don't have much good to say about this, unfortunately. I'll say I saw someone on Letterboxd say that they thought that this one was one of the most real portrayals of depression in film and like one of the least like sugar-coated. I don't know if I'm seeing it. I think that it's not sugar-coated. That's for sure. And I like that.
And they also compared it to Fire Walk with Me.
Oh.
And I was like, well, you're a lunatic once I saw that. But, I mean,
yeah. Okay.
I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
I thought that was a very weird comparison. I like see what they're going for, but no, I'm sorry.
I think I will try and give this movie a little bit of praise here. I think the woman, like her like little shroud thing, is kind of creepy that you can't see her face. And I do think it is objectively creepy that she gets closer and closer to the house. And like you don't see her move. It's more like you just look out the window and then suddenly she's sitting like many feet closer. That is like creepy and concerning. I just don't think they do enough outside of that to make her feel like a threat or creepy or concerning.
I'll be real. This is a nightmare I have. And that's why I'm even more frustrated that it didn't scare me. It's just someone standing. I used to live in a cul-de-sac. We had big windows in the living room, and I have this like in my head I can create this nightmare of like someone just standing in the cul-de-sac, light on them, just staring, not moving,
outside.
looking in. Wait, that's like something that I've always thought is like really scares me, and something being forced to stare that down, and this just doesn't work. It's daytime, she sits there. And there's no threat. You don't know what the threat is. So you can't be scared because they haven't portrayed her as a threat in any way. So you're like, what should I be scared of? And that's a big thing that I think also frustrated me, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think anyone being in your yard is scary without them being a threat or not. I think, yeah, I don't know. It's just...
Well, they confront her and nothing happens. So that's like it's like, okay, so like...
Like, if they were just looking out like, oh, that's scary, we'll just let it be. That is scary. But, like, yeah, the fact that they don't confront her or the fact that they confront her and she's not...
Just a lady.
Yeah, it's just a lady is like, eh.
Like, the Babadooke's scary, all right? That thing's crawling around the house and it's creepy looking.
Yeah.
And it goes into her mouth at some point.
I also just feel like the portrayal of grief and depression in the Babadook with Essie Davis's performance is really, really well done. And I feel really sympathetic and empathetic to her. I think the shots, like, they have similar shots of like the main character like laying in bed and like showing that they're like having a really hard time like getting out of bed and motivating to do anything. And I just feel like it works a little bit better in the Babadook, and it doesn't make her like, you're like, yeah, don't yell at your kid, but you are, I think, more sympathetic to it versus in this, you're like, stop being a bitch to your kid, and you should just not feel that way with a depression metaphor, in my opinion. But to give it another compliment, since you derailed my first compliment, is when there is more of like an attack scene, they use shadows of the woman's shawl, like so you could see like the lace pattern in the shadows, and I thought that looked really cool.
Yeah, it was cool, except then it got canceled out by the actual scene where we watched it at nighttime and we could not see a single thing on screen.
It got way too dark. Yeah.
That was another part where I started yelling. I was like, how could I not see anything? And it didn't feel like a stylistic choice. It felt like they just underexposed the scene.
Yeah.
I was like yelling. I literally couldn't see anything. Like, and there were things on the screen I should have been seeing and I could not see any of it. And I was like, what is this? Like, what are we doing here? So that was crazy. And it's like, not a short amount of time.
It's several
Call me
minutes.
pedantic, I dare you.
Okay. You are worrying me.
Okay.
Being too aggressive. I will also say there is a scene that did scare me.
Oh yeah? Which one was that?
Not scared and not like scared. I guess grossed me out. There's like a scene where she's playing with her stitches and she starts like pulling
that was gross.
out.
But what was
But like,
it wasn't actually happening. It was in her head. Sorry, spoilers. Whoa. But like, what was the point? Just to creep me out, right? Just to scare you because we're like, we needed a scare here.
I mean, yeah, but like, we don't know if she's having psychotic depression or anything. So I don't know. I don't have like an issue with that. I just wish like, if you're going to do that, use that more because that actually did make me uncomfortable. Like, use that type of scare.
Sure. But then you're also like, is it because of the woman? Like, I think it just hurts its own message. It's very unclear until the ending, I would say. And then it's way too clear.
I think it's very clear for the whole movie.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think it's pretty fucking obvious what the movie's trying to do. And I think that is a hindrance to it because I think they start to go in the wrong direction and make our main character unlikable, so you're less sympathetic to her depression, in my opinion. Well, let's just like fucking do it. Let's dive into it. Let's start with 15.
No, spoiler zone.
Now entering the spoiler zone.
Now we're entering the spoiler zone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the spoiler zone. After this point, you're going to hear some things that you might not want to hear.
All right, now let's do 15-second summaries.
Yes. I don't need to be timed for mine.
Okay.
Another movie trying to copy the Babadook and failing.
Yeah. I don't even know if I can do one for this.
Well, you're going to do it.
I'll try. Okay, we ready?
Yep.
So this lady's husband dies, so she's suffering from depression and kind of being a bad mom because of that. And we get it. We understand. And then herself shows up, and it's her evil depression self that takes her over and tries to make her kill herself. And then she doesn't. Maybe. For now. We'll be ready if she comes back, is what they say.
Well, I think there's
Which
more
is
to it
also
than that, too.
Such a Babadookie reference with the worms.
Yeah, it just feels so
It's just not cool, though.
silly.
It's just not cool.
Okay.
The Babadook's cool.
Okay. So I'm going to read the full plot synopsis.
Hannah's turn. Don't stutter.
Ramona is a widowed single mother who was disabled after a car accident that killed her husband David. She cares for their 2 children, Taylor and Annie, but she is strict and emotionally distant from them. A mysterious woman draped in black appears in the front yard, claiming that today's the day. Ramona tries to keep the kids away from the woman, who seems to know the true circumstances around David's death. Ramona makes the kids think that he was driving and caused the accident, but it was really Ramona who was driving and crashed the car after an argument with David about how unhappy she is. The woman then seems to use a shadow power to antagonize the family and seemingly take one of the kids away. The woman is revealed to be a physical manifestation of Ramona's psyche and only appeared because Ramona was praying for her. Ramona claims she prayed for strength to carry on after David's death, when in reality she was praying for the strength to end her life. The woman intends to help her commit suicide, convincing Ramona that the children are better off without her. Ramona surrenders herself to the woman and agrees to send the kids away for safety. After Ramona says goodbye to her kids, the woman leads her into the barn, assisting Ramona to point the rifle at herself. The woman seemingly merges with her. Ramona relaxes, and the next scene shows an alive Ramona walking outside to her children. They ask if the woman will come back, and Ramona says that she might, but assures them she will be ready this time. As they embrace, the camera pans into the house, revealing a painting Ramona had not finished before that shows her and the woman's faces together, with Ramona's name spelled backwards.
And that's our movie.
I'm good at reading, see?
That was pretty good.
Not illiterate.
I'm still frustrated by that movie, hearing the plot description.
Okay. Nothing scarier than a long-haul flight that leaves you feeling like a sleep-deprived zombie. That's why we're partnering with Vital Spring, the ultimate electrolyte and mineral replenisher designed to keep travelers hydrated, relaxed, and well-rested, even at 30,000 feet. Inspired by a 500-year-old mineral spring, it's packed with essential nutrients like magnesium and calcium to help fight dehydration and improve sleep. Don't let jet lag turn you into a horror movie victim. Grab Vital Spring and travel like a survivor. So, I don't like that they show this depressed person as dangerous. She has these visions throughout of her hurting her kids, like either like hitting them or cutting them, like stabbing them. I just hate the association of mental health, mental illness, and violence because, yes, obviously, anyone can be violent, but there is not a high correlation of people with mental illness and being violent. Some mental illnesses are correlated with not being violent and being more harmful to yourself than other people. Depression especially. So why the fuck are we playing into the stereotype that this depressed person wants to hurt her kids? And, like, I feel like it's trying to say that she's, like, overwhelmed with being a mother and the responsibilities that come with being a mom, which I, in theory, really like that, because I do think we as a society should talk more about the pressure that we put on mothers and wives specifically to be perfect. Like, dad can fuck up, dad can do whatever, but, like, moms have to be the perfect mother. So I like that that's where they're trying to go, but then when you make her, like, so mean to her kids, I think it hurts the messaging.
So I want to talk about the Babadook again, because I think we have to with this. Because the Babadook has something similar, where mom does try to hurt her kid, and we don't question it there. And I was trying, while you were talking, to think, why don't we question it there? And I think it's this critical idea when you're going to do an allegory in your movies, there still needs to be levels of separation. Where in the Babadook, like, yes, the Babadook is a manifestation of her grief, but yet it is still a monster that is there and making her do bad things. It's because of her grief, and it's partially is her grief and can be read both ways, but because it can be read both ways, it works. When you make the monster in this movie not exist outside of it, is actually just a manifestation of her depression.
Like, it's just her, a part of her. It is
just her. That's where it's not separated enough. It's not interesting because you're not actually telling like a nuanced, layered, conflicting, thematically rich story. And then you run into issues like the one that Hanna just pointed out, where to us, because it's so on the surface, it makes it easy for us to go, oh, well, that actually doesn't really play very well, does it?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think that's a good way of, like, a good theory as to why it feels different.
So aspiring writers, it's really critical to have text and subtext, not just have your subtext be the text.
Yeah.
Unless you're really good at what you do, because there's always times to break rules, and we've definitely complimented people that have done it that way too.
Yeah. Another thing that just kind of irked me, and it's along the same lines, they show Ramona and David, before he passed away, out to dinner together. And she is kind of saying, like, I feel like all I am is a wife and a mother, and I don't have anything outside of that. Like, I'm not happy. And he's basically just like, you can't be depressed. Our kids are happy and I'm happy. So, like, you got to deal with that. It's, like, really how it feels.
I wouldn't even say it was that. It was more like they weren't hearing each other, because I don't think he was being a total shithead.
No, I don't think he was being a total shithead. I thought they were both in the wrong and both in the right. I think both their frustrations came across as, like, fair enough. He's basically like, well, we moved here because you aren't happy in the city. Like, we can't keep moving. But I think the way he says it to me feels a bit dismissive of her. And, like, as a woman, knowing the stigma that there is to be a perfect wife and mother, I felt for her more than I was sympathetic to him in that conversation. Like, I felt like he was being a little harsher than he needed to be, as much as his point is fair. Like, we can't keep moving. We can't afford to do that. Like, at least be like, okay, how can I help in another way?
Agreed.
Like, that's not happening. And if you're, again, making a movie about fucking depression, like, maybe fucking do that. So then it just kind of feels like the film is punishing her for being selfish because she wants to be something outside of a mom and a wife.
Oh, yikes. I didn't even think about that.
And that's not okay.
Yeah, because she's not selfish.
Yeah, she's not selfish for that. She's not selfish for being depressed.
Shallow. It's just so shallow. That's it. I'm sorry to the people that liked it. It just doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. Okay, so I had something really good to go along with that, and now my brain's not working. Okay. So keep going. I know what it was. Sorry, I'm back. Okay, so that whole scene ends up leading to her wrecking the car afterwards while she was driving, which she lied to her kids about, and that's what ended up killing her husband.
Well, it's just like it's raining and she's maybe distracted.
Like, I understand that it's guilt. Why did she lie to her kids about it? Why was it a big plot point? It didn't seem to matter. And no, listen, I thought the whole time after this fight, I was like, oh my God, the car crash she made, it was a suicide attempt.
No.
And I thought that that's the route it was going to go. And that resulted in her husband dying. And I was like, to me,
well, that
with
would
this
be
theme,
fucked up.
that would have been made way more sense for her to feel guilty about it, for her to basically repress it and not talk about it. And it would have fit in with the themes of her having depression. I was so in. I was like, that was the thing I thought would actually make this really interesting. And then instead, it is just an accident. Like, I mean, they go on head on to a car. Why can't
someone be guilty either way? Like,
I just don't think. I don't think it needed to be.
Would you not feel guilty if you were driving, even if it's not your fault?
Not enough to, like, lie to my kids about it, I think. I don't know.
I don't know. If you were really depressed anyway, like, I think, I don't think that that's fair to say. I don't agree with that point.
Oh, I just meant that I thought it would make the movie more interesting. You don't think it would have made it more interesting?
Well, I think it is interesting that they show the woman outside of the car, basically showing that, like, again, the woman being an embodiment of her depression, that, like, showing that was there, and maybe she was feeling distracted or something because she's having all these emotions and her husband's not listening to her feelings and it is raining. Like, I understand her feeling guilty. I understand her not wanting her kids to fucking know because you don't want other people to blame you for it either when you already blame yourself.
For sure. I just thought what I had put together is what it felt like it was building to and what I thought was a much more interesting choice. But I don't know. To me, it ended up kind of just feeling uneven.
I wouldn't have liked that because then she is like a bad, like, no, it doesn't, I wouldn't say, yeah, like you're a bad person for a suicide attempt. I would never say that. But I think people would interpret that as like, she killed her fucking husband. Like, she killed him. Yeah. And so that would not be.
I just think it would.
I don't think that would work.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like it would work to me. I'm going to stand by it. Like you said, it felt really like that's what it was building to for me. And I thought that would have made just a lot more sense in context with everything else, especially leading to where the movie leads. And I think, I don't know, it just felt like that. Maybe I was just begging for any interesting choice to be made. And that felt like one that could have been made. But we don't have to talk about that one anymore. I just wanted to point it out. I'm sure I'm not the only person that felt that that's what it was leading to because it really seemed that way.
Something that we talked about off the mic a little bit is that it's really annoying that they used a different actress to play the woman.
I
when
agreed,
it's her.
But I think early on I was like, that's her. Like the first scene I saw, I was like, oh, that's her, right? And you're like, no, it's a different actress. I was like, no way, that's definitely like her voice.
And it wasn't.
But it is. In the movie, it is her. So I like that was just something. I mean, it's fine. I guess that would have given it away sooner, but I was like, it already was given away, even though they used a different actress. But that I think is maybe me being a little actually being pedantic.
I would have liked it. So that's why I brought it up. And I thought the shots where they do flip it and show her, like, blatantly her as the woman, saying, like, how did I get here? Yeah. I thought that scene was cool. I thought that was really interesting.
That was the first time I was like, okay, something is, like, happening. But, and this happens a couple times. She goes, like, Mirror World, she's now in the beginning of the movie as the woman. You're like, oh, my God, it has been her the whole time. Like, is she being taken over by it? But then it results in the scene of the movie that I felt the most disgusted by.
Explain.
Oh, I thought you would agree. The scene where she sends her kids out and gives in to this, depression monster that then merges with her, and we have to watch her uncomfortably sit there for 5 minutes and put a gun in her mouth and almost pull the trigger. Or maybe she does, as we know with the ending. And I felt just the whole thing just felt really odd to me.
I don't like a kill yourself demon. And we talked about that a lot in Smile, how fucked. I think that one is more fucked up, in my opinion, because in the first Smile,
there's no way to win against it. There's
no way to win. Versus in this one, like, there is, like, you... Again, it's one of those.
But they felt like there wasn't a way to win. Like in real life, there is a way to win against depression.
But there was. She just didn't do it.
What do you mean? Explain.
There is a way to win. She didn't kill herself.
She didn't, right? So she did win.
So that's what I'm saying.
And there was even a part where she was like, "No, I don't want this." And the depression monster goes, "You wake up every morning, pray to give me the strength." And she's like, what strength? And she said the strength to go on. And she's like, no, that's not it. You're praying for the strength to kill yourself is basically what. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, she just said.
But I'm also going to, like, bite back at you a little bit for that, in that, like, sometimes we do have those thoughts that we don't really want to reckon with.
I agree. Like, but then the mom is like, no.
I think it's okay for them to have, like, for her to have this, what is essentially to me an internal conversation with her own depression and her own self.
It really doesn't work for me, though, because then she's like, no, I don't want this. I have my kids. And
then she doesn't do it.
I know. But I still feel that there feels like there's a moment where it's like she doesn't have a choice. And it's like, no.
I don't agree because she did have a choice.
I know.
And she doesn't do it.
Well, it does, or maybe. Exactly.
That is where then I have a problem, because to me, she chooses not to do it. And it's like, yay.
Well, but this is my point, is when the thing is portrayed as a separate entity that seemingly has control over her, it's harder for me. I get conflicted on if I'm reading it as her other self or a monster. So when it's a monster being like, nope, you have to do this.
Well,
and she's like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, yeah, you don't want to. Don't. Like, get the fuck out of there.
I didn't see it as a monster. I see it as her other self because they established that it's her other self.
I know. And I guess my point is that the movie is not unclear. Like we said earlier, it's like almost not separated enough. And you're like, what is this thing? Is it just her depression? Is it something more? And so.
Yeah, so for me, I don't have an issue necessarily with her. Well, I'm going to be honest. I was really checked out by this point in the movie. I probably should have rewatched it.
I was going to say, I really did not like this scene at all.
Please. Okay. I should have rewatched it, perhaps before talking about it. And like maybe I'd have like something more nuanced to say. But I think from my interpretation of it, I like don't necessarily have an issue with her like essentially having this conversation and grappling with the suicidal ideations that she has had. I think that's okay. I think there are a lot of people who have suicidal ideations and even a plan and intent and don't do it. And I'm proud of those people for not going through it and for hopefully taking the steps that they need to get help. And I interpret this as her taking that step.
So she's having like an internal conversation with herself.
That's
in this
how
scene?
I see it.
Okay.
If this is her, which they've established, it is her. They've literally say, direct quote, "I'm the corners of your mind, the scary parts." Like it is saying and this is your mind.
With it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I guess.
And it's her arguing with like the dark side of her mind to be like, no, I don't actually want to do this. Or like, I'm not, we're not there. Which I'm fine with. I like that enough.
But for her to succeed, she has to sit there and put the gun in her mouth and like merge with this part. And I don't know, I guess it just felt over the top.
I don't know if we needed the visual of a gun in the mouth.
Yeah.
But alas, that's what we got. Where my bigger issue lies is that we see her then go outside and reunite with her kids, and then the power comes back on because that's not in the plot description, but like their electric was out because she didn't pay the bill. And then their dog, which was missing for like most of the movie, reappears, and then there is a sign for the farm, even though she had this flashback scene that they hadn't named the farm yet. And so it's you could be like, oh yay, like she is learning to overcome her suicidal ideations and like things are looking up for her and her family. But then they have the painting with the name spelled backwards, or with like the R backwards, which is how her child kept writing her R's, which was kind of funny. But that kind of is showing that she might still be in that like mirror world, and those things are not actually happening. That's just what she wants it to be happening, not what she actually has, which would imply that she actually did successfully complete suicide.
Yeah, big yikes.
Which is like deeply uncomfortable and sinister. I think we simply did not need the backwards R. I feel like I hope that the intent was, yay, they're happy now, but like let's just add in like this quirky little thing that we showed earlier in the movie, or let's just like add in a little ambiguity because that's fun.
Doing that is just like completely not understanding what the rest of your movie was doing. So like, what's the point, you know? That's a complete misunderstanding of the rest of your film then, if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Like it's just bad. It's just bad filmmaking.
And it's also, you know, if it's that she did die by suicide, then what is this saying about our fight with our depression? Like what is that? That it's basically saying you won't beat your depression it will beat you.
I saw a really good Letterboxd review that gave this like 1 star, and it said, moral of the story, if you're a bad mom, kill yourself. And I was like, huh. And I have another review here that I resonated with completely from Louis Pietzman. He gave it 1.5 and said, you think it's going to be your standard forgettable grief metaphor horror from Blumhouse, but it's actually so much more offensive than that.
And I think, it's offensive because what we just discussed with the end. It
just feels like there wasn't enough effort, and that a lot of the emotional beats are unearned, which when it comes to a really heavy subject matter like this can come across very offensive, I think. And that's like where I'll leave it. Yeah,
I agree. I just think a lot of the things in this movie, what they might be going for to me isn't landing.
Yeah, I agree. It's not landing for me either.
And if it landed for you and you felt seen by the portrayal of depression, then I don't want to yuck your yum. I think it is really, really important to have media that is accurately showing people's experiences with depression, anxiety, mental illness, etc. For me, like, to get a little personal, I did not know. I used to have, like, in early high school, middle school, a pretty severe panic disorder and was really depressed. And I did not have the language to mention that until I read it in a book. And then I showed it to my mom and said, Mom, I think I have this. And that is how I got into therapy for the first time. That is how I got help, because I had a media that portrayed how I was feeling. So ultimately, like, if you feel seen by this, I'm happy that you could feel seen by it. I just don't like that it feels at the end so dark, like there is no reality in which you survive this, and that, like, your ending is that you will die by suicide.
And all of that being said, we have problems with the more heavy stuff. I would say what it also really comes down to is it's also just not a very good movie, in my opinion. Like, I didn't want to finish it when I started it.
I just think, like, the beginning is kind of boring. I think it doesn't look that great. The acting, besides Danielle Deadwyler, is just I think when they're showing scenes in the dark, they look like shit because you can't see anything. The movie also has some choices that, like, don't make sense to me. They say, we need to go somewhere completely dark because they think that, like,
the shadow monster, which is out of nowhere, that it's a shadow monster to get us now.
Which, like, whatever, cool enough, but we need to go somewhere completely dark. And then they go to the attic, which has a window, and it's really bright up there.
Okay, Jeremy from Cinema Sins.
But, like, it just feels like, what the fuck are we talking about? So with everything, it just kind of feels...
And it's not scary. It's not a thriller. It's, what it comes down to is I don't recommend it. I don't recommend watching it on streaming. I definitely don't recommend paying for it. So, like, don't see it, in my opinion, unless you want to. You're an adult. Make your own choices.
This movie is pretty short, so at least it
didn't feel like
not wasting more than an hour and a half of your life if you watch it and you don't like it. Again, I think it's hard because it resonated with so many people, so, like, maybe it'll resonate with you. But it might not. And you might feel like I did and feel offended. Ultimately, though, I feel like it's a worse made movie than Smile for the most part. At least Smile scared me.
It really is.
But I think it's a little less offensive than Smile.
Yeah, but Smile gave us Smile 2, and Smile 2's awesome.
So it be like that.
If The Woman in the Yard 2 comes out, we riot.
I'll give it a chance. Smile.
No, Blumhouse needs to take their licking and learn how to pick a good movie again. Sorry, guys.
Okay, it's been rough out here.
Can we rate this thing?
Did you have any scenes that you would say were your favorite scene or scary enough that you would, like, want to highlight it?
There was one shot that I really liked where the woman in the yard from the movie The Woman in the Yard, the titular woman, was sitting in the yard that she's in. And our main character is standing there looking at her, and the grass looks kind of nice and the sky looks nice. And it's shot with them kind of like staring at each other, and it's a little ominous. I thought that was kind of cool.
A cool shot.
It was one nice little shot.
I love a little farm.
I was like, oh, that setting. Looks pretty. And then, that was it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Oh,
I dogged this thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did. I liked that too. I liked the setting of like the farm, like middle of nowhere setting, and I think that made it at least gave that a little more stakes because it's not like they could immediately go get help anywhere. So I liked that enough. Okay, yeah, let's just rate this shit and get out of here. Oh, what I will say about the woman in the yard, the titular woman who was in the yard.
Yes.
I saw a Letterboxd review that was like, well, at least if this woman's just going to be standing in my yard, she might as well mow the lawn for me.
do some work, girl.
Yeah, and I thought that was very funny. And then they gave it like 1 star. So how would you rate it?
2 out of 10. Do not recommend. I gave it 1 star on Letterboxd, so... And that's only, I don't know what I've given a half star. It has to be pretty bad. This was one that again, if a movie frustrates me to the point that I want to turn it off, like, it's going to get a bad review. So I didn't want to cover it.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. People want to hear about it. They're going to just have to hear me bitch,
I would give it 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. I liked Annabelle better than this, if that's saying something.
I like this better than Annabelle.
Okay. Well
mostly because, Annabelle scared me.
Yeah.
So in that way, Annabelle was better. But I think the ending of that is even worse.
Probably.
So.
But at least I was entertained.
Yeah, well.
I think I gave Annabelle a 2 as well, so.
So you're consistent.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe a 3.5.
Well... Sorry for being pedantic, but, that's what you come here for.
Sometimes.
That's what you're here for. I'm going to tell it as it is, and I'm an emotional guy when it comes to my art.
You just have so many feelings.
I get feelings. And
we love a man who can express their feelings. We don't stigmatize here.
I'm trying my best, and I'm trying my best to say it in concise ways. And I think I did good sometimes.
Good sometimes.
And that's all we can ask for. Yeah, that's all we can ask for. That's what the people are here for.
Well, before we close out, I did, because we were talking quite a bit about mental health in this episode, I did, just want to make sure that people know resources that they can reach out to if they need to. There is the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's available to call or text. That number is 988. For both. A lot of counties also have resource lines. I know Philadelphia County, for example, has one. I know I've found some in New Jersey. So that's also another resource that you can dial to see what resources might be in your area. Other than that, we're going to close out. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Matt Hanna.
Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannas. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever else you can find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube, where we post episodes and shorts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannas on TikTok and Instagram, as well as at Horror Hour on Blue Sky for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!